Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Just want to do a little live hangout today, answer maybe a couple of questions if you guys have any, see how you're doing. Are you being productive? Are you excited about the weekend? What's going on in your world? Kind of want to check in with you guys. I love when I'm able to do these live streams. I'm not able to do them all the time, but we did one, I think, last week. And as I said last week, I just feel much more connected to you guys when we can have these real live interactive hangouts. So I want to just make sure we continue these as often as I possibly can. I know the last couple of months I've been really lagging on that, so I do apologize. But we'll see how many of you guys can show up today and maybe pop a couple of questions in there, just making sure that it's all good. Looks like that we are rocking and rolling there. So I think we're all right. So until we get a few of you guys hanging out, let's see what's going on in my world. We have obviously still Sync 60 going on with Sync Academy. We're 2 weeks away from that being over. So that's really cool. I think a lot of you guys are being really productive with that. I did release just on Wednesday a syndicate video. A few of you guys had commented and said, hey, did you mean to release that? Because it said private in the title. And I wanted to let you guys know that, just so that you knew that, in the video I'm addressing you as the syndicate. But if you're here on YouTube, you're like, well, what's the syndicate? I'm not in the syndicate. What are you talking about? I just wanted to try to clarify that as best I could, rather than having to make a new video explaining what that video was about and all that kind of stuff. So that was a video that I did release to the syndicate members last week, because we just had tons and tons of errors coming through with the finals that were delivered to me for an album that we were submitting to one of our library partners. And, obviously it was a little bit annoying for me to get a bunch of errors and a lot of problems and have to sort of like walk a lot of them through it. But a big part of being in the syndicate and Sync Academy, all this stuff, I have to always remind myself this is a place to learn, right? But that also means that I can give a little bit of tough love to let you guys know how important this stuff is, because as I said in that video, if I'm not, giving you guys some real consequences for not turning your stuff in exactly how it needs to be turned in, then what kind of a mentor or a coach or a teacher am I that's going to be sending you out into this sync licensing world, this jungle, without giving you the proper tools and training to really stand out? It's not that difficult, believe it or not, to get accepted by libraries. A lot of you guys still, if you haven't been accepted yet, you think that that's the big thing that's like, oh my gosh, I haven't been accepted yet. When am I going to get accepted? A lot of you guys are freaking out because you think that's such a high bar to get into a library. Believe it or not, that's not the hardest part about this business. A lot of my students have been able to get accepted in the libraries, which is always cool. I don't want to take away how awesome that is, but the harder part is consistently delivering high quality assets to the libraries you get accepted by, and doing that on a regular basis so that you consistently build up your catalog, and then you can obviously eventually build up your royalties, right? So a lot of producers get into a library, they're super excited, and then that's it. That's pretty much as far as they get. And they don't continuously submit music, or they get in, but then they constantly send problematic finals. Like just to give you guys some examples of what I had. I had files that were sent to me that were the wrong format, labeled improperly. The cut downs were not the right lengths. The stems were not correctly labeled. The stems were not in the right place within the folders. There were things all over the place. We had missing metadata, parts of the metadata where there was wrong, like IPI numbers included on there. There was contracts that were missing. Some members hadn't even filled out their contracts. So there was just a lot of things that were just not double checked. And so I think for me, I got to make sure that you guys are all aware, and not just the syndicate members, but all of you guys. That's why I will release that video, that those little things that we don't think are that important, like, really, okay, I didn't, like, literally, it's as simple as I didn't put a parenthesis around a part of the track title. Like for the library that we work with, they want their track title names very specifically outlined, because when they ingest it into their system, it goes through a sort of automation process where, as long as it's labeled this way, it can go exactly where it needs to go, including the metadata. All this stuff is automated as much as possible. So if you don't put a parenthesis where it's supposed to be, or if you all capitalize a word that's not supposed to be all capitalized, or you don't put an underscore where it's supposed to be, like, these are little tiny things that you think, what's the big deal? You sort of clog up the system, right, with your problematic files. And that means that the library that you work with has to do extra work, right? They either have to go rename your files, or they have to tell you, hey, not good enough, you need to do this better. And the more you do that, like if you consistently send libraries problems and not solutions, well, guess what they're going to think or feel every time they get an email from you? They're going to go, oh, Here's that producer that always gets things wrong. Here's that producer who always sends us the wrong files, and they don't get a really warm, fuzzy feeling in their gut about you. All right. And so your brand, which is basically your reputation, starts to sink more and more and more in their eyes, and you might not be getting pulled into really exclusive, cool opportunities. If you pay attention to the little details, right? And this is where, and I said this in that video, I'm not asking for you guys to spend an extra hour even on your production or anything like that. I'm saying spend 5 minutes at the end of your bouncing your tracks and labeling things. Spend 5 minutes, go through, listen to stuff, double check it, make sure you're following all the guidelines. That's it, really. That extra 5 minutes, which is basically like an extra, what 5% of effort, 10% of effort, maybe, is actually what's going to it's going to pay you much larger dividends than 10%. It's going to absolutely jetpack your reputation and your ability to really stand out with libraries. So it's a tiny amount of work for a massive payoff, right? So that's why I wanted to give you guys a little bit of that. I wanted to just share that video with you guys so that you guys know how important that is and how serious I take that stuff with the syndicate. But just even if you're not in the syndicate, you should be taking it that seriously for yourself. That it's just as important as having a licensable track. So if you think making licensable music is all where it's at and all the little details, whatever, I'll figure that out later. No, that stuff, the details, labeling, metadata, filling in contracts, double checking your work, that stuff is equally on par with having high quality licensable music. So I hope that is very clear to you guys now. So we got quite a few of you guys watching now. Welcome. The Mix Club. What's up? Welcome. Audio Station. Hey, what's going on? Not a question, but I just want to tell you that I got a full-time job at a sync house because of the knowledge I got from your videos. Wow, that's really cool, Maze. Really, really glad to hear that. Good for you. Awesome. You're welcome, Audio Station. Problematic producer. Yeah. Rajiv, I think that's how your name is. Started with a library a year ago, submitted about 5 albums with them now. I just wanted to know if the more track albums you submit, does it then guarantee if I'll get placements or not? No, it definitely doesn't. You can have 10,000 albums in a library. Does that guarantee that any one particular client is going to go in and even use one of your tracks? It's a great question, but you need to also keep in mind that you can't control any of that. I can't control any of that. I mean, I get this a lot with people who want to sign up for SyncEdge, and they say, hey, well, if I sign up for your SyncEdge program and I get these recommended libraries, does that guarantee me placements? And I'm like, I wish, I really wish I could say, absolutely. I control the CEO of that library, and I will blackmail him and tell him to use your tracks, or I'll make sure that the clients of his, actually even more accurately, I'll blackmail their clients and I'll make sure that they use your tracks. Guys, completely out of my control. I can't control what people need, what people want, what tracks or what projects they're working on what kind of music they're going to need for those individual projects. So this stuff is all out of our control. So no, there is no such thing as a guarantee. And I don't think anybody can give you a guarantee. So if somebody's selling you a guarantee on something, double check what they're saying to you, because I don't think there's such thing that exists. So what I do about that, rather than get kind of depressed and bummed out, which it can lead you down that path of going, well, man, 5 albums, like, I don't know. You're certainly increasing your chances. That's what I would say is not look at the guarantees in this, but look at the odds. Okay. So if you're working with a legit library and you feel that they're giving you some great communication and you're feeling good about them, and you got 5 albums with them and they're getting a lot of placements and you're seeing that there's a lot of stuff just going on with them, with their clients, you're definitely going to be in a better position to get placements, right? Not a guarantee, but you're definitely increasing your odds. I do recommend, Rajiv, if you are not working with 2 libraries, to maybe consider, because it sounds like you can crank out quite a bit of music, maybe think about working with a second library alongside of this first one and feed them both equally, or maybe feed one more or the other, however you feel like you can divide your time. And then you can kind of start to see which one is really pulling a little bit more for you and which one is going to be delivering you more placements. That way you're not flying blind, because let's say this library gets you 100 placements this year and it results you in, I don't know, $1,000, right, in royalties for a start, right? Not bad for a start. Well, if you have nothing to compare that to, you might think, this is awesome. This is great. Like, I'm just going to stick with them. And it might be a great situation. But if there was another library you're working with and they delivered you 20 placements that got you $2,000, who do you want to stay with, right? Or who do you want to maybe give a little bit more time and attention to? This is the kind of stuff, like, human beings are really bad at evaluating anything unless we have something to compare it to. So that's why I think getting 2 libraries under your belt simultaneously, both can be exclusive, but you send them different music, right? Can be a way to get around that. So great question. And I understand the frustration that can absolutely cause you when you're thinking about, there's no guarantee. Yeah. Sorry guys, no guarantees in life. There never have been, right? So we kind of have to just move past that as an expectation and go into like just increasing our odds of success. That's really the only thing we can do about that. So Moon Tones, what's up? All right, Angel, awesome. I'm glad that you appreciate that. Philly Vibes, hey Jesse, I got a placement last year in June. It didn't get the royalties yet. Is it strange? Last year in June, so we're now, no, it's not strange actually, because it usually takes about a year to a year and a half, sometimes even up to 2 years to see those royalties. So Philly Vibes, you'll probably see that on your next PRO statement. Probably not the one that just came out today. At least if you're with BMI, you just got to check today. Congrats to all you guys that did. But you probably will have to wait another 3 months, maybe even 6 months to see that. It's a year to 2 years basically to see your royalties after you get a placement. And so we're basically only a year out. So I would definitely be a little more patient on that. So David, my library does not mind if I give them one song at a time or a full album, but do you feel it is to my advantage to be giving them a full album of similar material or just continue with my way? I do believe there's a part of this business that is a numbers game. I don't think that means you need to sacrifice your quality to just put out garbage, and just have a large number of tracks that are just terrible. But if you can manage to put out high quality albums, absolutely. Like, my thing with libraries have always been, I like to work with libraries that basically have an open door where they say, we love what you're doing and we need a lot of it because we've got clients that use your music. Send us as much as you possibly can. I like those situations because then I don't have to ever wait and sit around and wonder, what should I send to them? What should I be working on? If you don't have to ask that question and you just know that whatever you're working on or whatever style you have is really working for their clients and what they want to do, just knock it out. Just completely go, 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 because it's an open door policy to essentially increase your catalog size, right? If you guys have followed me at all, you've seen a little bit about my history. I have definitely about 1,000 tracks that I've composed, but when you compile all the alt mixes and all the sort of variations of those tracks, I have over 3,500, maybe even 4,000 tracks in my catalog that are out there competing and getting placements for me. So you do need to start thinking about this as a numbers business eventually, right? If you're putting out one album in a year at this slow, sort of like one track at a time, it's possible to get to full time, but it's going to be a lot longer for you because you're just slowly, again, what we talked about before, the odds, right? If you have one track in a catalog of 1,000, you have 1 out of 1,000 chances essentially of getting a placement. But if you have an album or a couple of albums, you can see how your chances increase and increase and increase. So I do think that even though they could accept just one, I think if you can push yourself to go a little bit more with your time and however you can do with your schedule, I think that's definitely a better way to go about it. So Mohawk, what is your opinion on Taxi? Taxi, I signed up with them years ago. I think it was 2002, 2003, maybe 2004. So this was another era, well before the internet was really what it is now. I did not have a great experience with them. We paid their sort of annual fee to get some feedback. We wanted our music to get we just wanted some professional opinion on this band that I was in at the time. And the feedback we got was very vague, very generic. It almost gave us no direction on what to do with the music. It was like they were using language like, the intro could be a little stronger. And it's like, we just paid a lot of money for somebody to say something very vague that doesn't really help us out at all. So we actually asked for our money back pretty quickly. We were like, yeah, this is not what we thought it was going to be. I've heard very positive things from some people who go to their, I think they have like a convention that they get together. Some people have really positive things to say that they've met people and all that kind of stuff. My whole thing, though, with companies like Taxi is that they are essentially in between you and libraries, right? They're a middleman service. And you don't need to have a middleman between you and music libraries, because if you don't know this, libraries have their doors open to unsolicited new producers pretty much all the time. There's going to be some seasons where they're not so interested in taking on new producers because they're busy or whatever. But for the most part, they are in the business. They're not like record labels. Record labels for sure are not looking for everybody's demo to get sent to them. Music libraries are. They don't want demos. They want fully created music, and finished music. But they are definitely in the business of saying, hey, we want awesome new talent to bring onto our roster because we really want to work well and supply our clients with high quality new music, and we want to stay relevant to them. So if you can go directly to a library, why would you go to a middleman service like that who is sending out these briefs, these opportunities to how many members does Taxi have? I don't know. I don't know if they publish that, but it's in the thousands, I'm guessing, maybe over 10,000. I have no idea, right? So again, the odds. Do you want to be 1 out of 10,000 people going through a middleman service? Or do you want to send a library a direct email and send them your album ready to go, licensable? You've done the research. You want to partner with them. You can see which approach is probably going to be more profitable and more direct for you. So that's my sort of take on it. But, some people have good things to say about it. Others don't. It's just kind of like, it's just sort of a 50-50 thing, I think, with some people. Some people like it, some people don't. So David, good morning, man. Glad you joined us. Safanefe. I don't know how you say your name. Before uploading music tracks to my website, is it good practice for product protection to only upload a low quality file, MP3, instead of high quality waves? You can. Chances of a music library, like if you're sending your music just to music libraries, chances of a library like stealing your music and trying to distribute themselves is like so low that I don't even think it's necessary to have to worry about that. Maybe you want to just disable downloads, right? So that if somebody comes across your site, they can't just download your music. But I don't think you need to go that extra step. I would only probably think about putting an MP3 up only because it might load faster, right? A smaller file, it might just be quicker to sort of stream. So there's nothing wrong with streaming MP3 files. And then if they want to sign you, you just send them the WAV file. But yeah, I don't think we need to be that sort of overprotective of our music, especially when we're sending it to music libraries. It's just not a thing that really happens because there's such a small community in this world that if you had a library that was known to be stealing music and taking music without people's authorization, they'd be out of business so quick because it's just everybody talks. Everybody knows everybody. It's just a really, really small business. So I don't think we have to worry too much about that kind of stuff. So Nicola, hey Jesse, a question. I have a habit of mastering at -14 LUFS for Spotify. Do you have a suggestion about the recommended LUFS for preliminary and definitive submission for libraries? It can be about the same that you do for Spotify. So there's no sort of like particular that I've seen in my career where it's like, it needs to be this amount. Libraries usually just go thumbs up, thumbs down, right? Either your mix is loud and impactful and feeling competitive with kind of the rest of what's going on, either, on the charts or in their other catalog, or it's not. So there's obviously a range you can go. But yeah, if whatever you're doing right now is working in terms of being competitive with, let's say, other artists and other music on Spotify in your particular genre, you can just keep that exact same process for sync licensing. You don't need to adjust it at all. All right. Source 4, you got your statement in the mail or email. Awesome, man. Hope you're pleasantly surprised. Whoops, we missed one there. Produce Fitness. What's the best place to submit music as a new producer in the licensing world? Produce, you need to go to my free course, okay? Because that's a big question and there's a lot of moving parts to that. Music libraries is basically the answer, but you need to know how to approach them, what to look for. You don't just send music to any music library. So syncmymusic.com/free course. Any of you guys that are brand new or you're kind of looking like, what is a sync licensing thing? Maybe I should look into it. syncmymusic.com. You can just go to my main site, syncmymusic.com, and you'll see the free course at the very top. Or if you want to go directly there, /free course. Check it out. There's a lot of information that you should get familiar with before you start doing your research. All right. Simon, I've sold about 6 albums of different genres to libraries. I feel comfortable in one genre, but I'm afraid they're going to have too much of this genre at some point. Any advice? It depends, Simon. So it's a good question, a good consideration, but I have definitely had libraries where they can't get enough of what I'm doing. And there's no such thing as too much because they have, let's like one of them, like, for example, was putting out tons and tons of like Survivor type reality TV shows, Dual Survivor. There was a couple of like spinoffs of Survivor. And it was like every week, we need more, we need more, we need more, we need more, because they're just cranking out tons and tons of these episodes. They want a lot of music. So it's not so much about like your opinion of what's too much. It's more about the library's opinion of what's too much. So if they're saying, hey, we're good, we just needed an album or 2 of this style, then yeah, listen to them and have that conversation with them. But if they're like, hey, we can't get enough of this because we have this client that's just eating this stuff up and they need new music all the time, why not, right? Just keep going for it. As long as you stay fresh and you're not sort of making cover versions of your previous tracks. That's a thing that you can kind of get lost in where you're like, okay, I've done this so much. I need to sort of like break out and get fresh or whatever. So sometimes finding new reference tracks or getting new sounds to work with, new samplers, new synths, kind of keeping yourself sort of refreshed is definitely a way to go. So a really good thought though, a really good question. It shows that you're really thoughtful about this stuff, but it's not so much about what you think is too much. It's really all about the library. So All right. Nanoverse. I submitted some tracks through Broadjam. They're asking for stuff that sounds like Metallica, which I provided. They ended up choosing some weird electronic fusion rock with dubstep elements. WTF. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Broadjam is kind of another one of those things that's like Taxi, where it's like you're paying to get into a middleman situation. So not my thing. I've never done that. I've never worked with those kind of companies. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I just don't hear a lot, especially with Broadjam. I think Music X-Ray. There's a couple of those companies out there that do that stuff. I just don't hear many success stories of people like, yeah, I use Music X-Ray or Broadjam, and now I'm doing this full time. If you guys know those stories, let me know about them. I just don't hear about it. I hear mostly people that are going like, yeah, I paid for a year or two, maybe got one placement or nothing. I got nothing at all. So I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the smartest way to approach this business. I think direct personal relationships with the people you're going to do work with is better than paying a middleman to pitch your music off to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Thoughts on earning royalties through PROs on streaming platforms? Are the traditional PROs claiming that? Yeah, you still do. I'd say when you get a placement on TV, that then also goes to streaming. Yeah. Oops. Just dropped a whole bunch of water on the ground. That's fun. I'll have to clean that up later. Luckily, didn't get anything electronic, so we're good. If your track was placed on TV and you then got that same TV show streamed on a streaming service, then yes, the PROs would track that for you. So you would get those royalties. They're very, very small. They're very, very tiny. They're almost laughable at this point, so they're not great. However, if you got, let's say, a direct placement with Netflix and it wasn't through, a TV show first, it was actually just straight through Netflix. Most of the time, as far as what I'm hearing from a lot of people recently, is that there are no royalties associated with that. Essentially, it's just going to be a one-time sync fee, a one-time payment, and then that's it. There's really no tracking of royalties going on there. So I know some people think that's terrible. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, because some of those upfront fees are $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And to be honest with you guys, to earn $3,000 with a track through royalties is actually kind of rare. You don't get that often per track that you put out. Some tracks will do really well, but some tracks you get almost nothing. So to have like a guarantee, here's what your royalties are going to have, here's basically your sort of in replacement of royalties, here's basically all your money up front. It's not a bad deal, I think. I think you just gotta weigh it for yourself and not just think that like, oh, you gotta always have royalties, because royalties are always better than upfront sync fees. Sometimes, and sometimes not so much. So, how do we determine what someone wants when we provide exactly what they want? Yet it's not enough. Definitely see why so many throw in the towel in this industry. What are your thoughts? It's hard because you're basically asking, like, when they give you, let's say, like a brief, and you follow it to the best of your ability, but then you find out, oh my gosh, like it was exactly what they wanted, but they said they don't want that now. They want something else, or they disagree with me. They think that my track is not close to what they were looking for in this brief. So super frustrating, man. That's definitely why a lot of people are just like, I'm out. I don't want to do this kind of stuff. It's too frustrating. And I think that my opinion is better than their opinion. My thing is, the only way to get through that is you do have to quiet down that little ego, that little voice inside of your head that thinks that we have everything figured out and our judgment on music is the only one that matters. And we are completely, our opinion is the highest in the world. We have to basically put ourselves down a notch, and we have to realize that we're here to serve, right? So if you're here to make somebody else's project better and more, enjoyable to watch, and they have the money and they have the opportunity, well, guess whose opinion really matters in that industry or in that situation? Theirs, right? So if you can sort of go, okay, you didn't like this, but you asked them, I would like to do it better. Can you give me some notes? Can I get it a little bit closer to what you want? You kind of keep that mindset. You won't be as, frustrated with it. You won't be as sort of like really mad when they sort of say, no, it's not exactly what we want. So it's just more about mindset, having the right expectation that you're not always going to get it right the first time. And if you have the expectation of like, oh, this one's going to get it right no matter what, you're probably not going to do well in this business. You have to keep that humble state of mind of like, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to pitch it out there and we'll see what happens. 50-50 could work, could not work. You keep this sort of healthy expectation there, and then you won't be so let down if you don't get it. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, Ernie, what's up, man? Good morning. W Cannon, what's going on? While registering my music with ASCAP, wondering if I can take my DistroKid and SoundCloud files as well as the IRSC number, just making sure I'm 100%. Registering, when am I going to take my files? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. Registering your music. You don't register your files with ASCAP. Like there's no files, there's no audio files that you send to ASCAP. It's just data about your music. So I'm not exactly sure what that question is, man. Maybe if you want to sort of clarify that one. So. All right. Cool. Finally hit the $1,000 threshold with BMI. Congratulations, man. I remember getting into those 4 digits, 3 digits first, like, wow, and then 4 digits. And so, yeah, man, you're on the way to 5 digits. Keep it up. Cameron, thanks for doing these streams. You got it. You mentioned downloading reference tracks from libraries before. Are there any libraries you can point us to where that allow downloads? I'm sorry if I misspoke. No, I don't recommend downloading tracks for libraries because most of the time you're never going to be able to do that. What I recommend is you just keep up the browser on your, if you're using Chrome or whatever you're using, just keep that page up with that track and click play and reference back from that track to your track. So no, I don't recommend you try to download or create some sort of a lot of these libraries you can create sort of a membership or a profile, essentially a user profile, but that's not for you. That's not for producers. That's not for us. That is for the TV clients. That's for the people that want to go use the music in their production. So I don't think it's a smart idea to try to get sneaky and create one of those so that you can try to start to download music and that kind of thing. Just keep it up on a browser window next to your DAW if you can. That's basically the best you can do. Oh, and then you were asking in terms of which libraries? Well, any library, because you don't have to download them. You just have to listen to them. So any library, essentially. So, do you think every music genre has some kind of relevance if you find the right library, or is it just music that cannot be placed? I'm thinking about creativity, efficiency, balance in our work. No, there's definitely some types of music that will not be placed. So you've got experimental, psychedelic acid rock or something like that. Like, I should say never. Maybe one placement out of the year, you'll get something like that. I mean, and especially if you have some sort of really strange, kind of really out there experimental music, you're probably never going to find a home for that. And I'd say in terms of the bigger question there is, there are definitely genres that I think are more profitable and get more placements. Those are the ones that I focus on in Sync Edge and Sync Academy. So, it's the rock, pop, hip hop, EDM, corporate, maybe a little bit of Americana country, orchestral, minimal, tension. These are sort of the big ones that when you watch TV, you're hearing this stuff all day long. There's a place for like horror music, for example. Like, so I get this question quite a bit. Like, I make horror music. Is there a place for me? Oh, absolutely. There's horror TV shows, there's horror movies, horror trailers, right? But is there enough of that going on that you're going to probably see full-time income with that one particular genre? To me, no, because I don't see enough of that really happening. There's not enough activity going on there. So again, the odds, like, where do you want to go? You want to go where there's just a little bit of action happening and hope for the best? Or do you want to go where all the action is happening and sort of put your best foot forward in that? So I say go to the big sort of, where the energy is in this business. And those genres are the ones that you're going to find all over the place for TV shows, reality shows, drama shows, crime shows, commercials, promos, trailers, films, documentaries. Those genres that I mentioned before, they can be placed in all of those, so that's what I would say for that. So what is the best song length to send? 30s, 60s, or 120s for TV and Netflix? Again, produce, you got to go through my free course, man, because these are questions that once you go through that, you're going to figure this stuff out, because that question doesn't quite make sense. And you'll learn once you go through that free course that we don't think about in terms of what's the best song length for TV and Netflix. Those are also what we call cut downs, like a 15, a 30, a 60. Those are cut downs. Those are alternate versions of our full tracks. Some libraries are cool with you sending a full track that's 2 minutes long. Some are 3 minutes long. Some, a minute and a half. But definitely go through that free course, man, because there's a lot of stuff you got to kind of wrap your head around for sure, so you can understand this stuff. So, hey, I created an instrumental project. What's the next step as far as finding a library? Definitely check out my video on my channel called How to Find Libraries 100% on Your Own. So if you just go to my channel, type in Find Music Libraries on Your Own, you'll probably find it. That's a 10-minute video, 20-minute video, something like that. And it'll give you my exact steps for how to do it. If you want to use sort of my service to sort of shortcut your way into finding really reputable, high quality music libraries, go to Sync Edge, syncedge.me, syncedge.me, right? Syncedge.me will basically give you my personal music library recommendations, not just giving you the names of the companies and who they are, but I also give you insights into how to submit to them, how to basically put your best foot forward, what genre is probably going to be the most useful for them and the most profitable with them, and any tips or insights I can give you into how to best increase your chances of getting accepted. So you can do all that research yourself, and it can take you a long time to figure it out, and you might be really confused about all that. or you can listen to somebody that's been doing it for 13 years, has a good track record of getting accepted by libraries, and it's pretty much all I've been living and breathing for the last decade or plus. So you're essentially getting 10 years of wisdom crammed into a couple of videos. So you can just really sort of shortcut your way into getting accepted by a library. So check out SyncEdge if you're interested in that. So. All right, to clarify, should I also be registering the IRSC for tracks I already have on DistroKid and SoundCloud BeatStars training kit? Should I remove these tracks after registering? So with sync licensing, the IRSC is not applicable because we're not selling or really streaming our music. We're actually just licensing it. So that's completely irrelevant. The only thing that you have to think about is when you are sending your music to a library, if it's an exclusive library, some libraries will not want you to have your music out on DistroKid, SoundCloud, BeatStars, any of these other places. In fact, for sure, I think BeatStars, they probably have a problem with TrackTrain. I'm not even sure what that is. But DistroKid and SoundCloud, maybe they'd be okay with it. But you definitely need to let them know that your tracks aren't just sitting on your hard drive. They're in the public view. They're available for streaming, available for maybe purchase and download. Some libraries will be cool with that. Others, not so much. So you definitely need to just let them know that so that they can let you know what their policy is. So. Sam, I just answered that question, so hopefully I just answered it for you. Any tips on staying creative and constantly creating tracks? Yeah, it's a hard one, man. I created a whole series in Sync Academy called Sync Psych. Or Psych Sync. No, Sync Psych. Sync Psych 101. That's what it is. It's been so long. It's exactly about that. It is about staying creative, staying motivated, staying positive. I can tell you in a nutshell, it's not about waiting for motivation to find you, because if you're going to sit around and wait to feel like you want to make music, it ain't going to work. You're going to have days where you don't feel like making music. That's just going to be part of it. So you have to create rituals and sort of a schedule and a discipline to consistently show up so that motivation and creativity can find you. That's more what it is that you're not searching around looking for motivation. Where's my motivation? You just need to be there. You need to have the right mindset. You need to take care of yourself. You need to sort of structure your life in a way that as you're there, creativity and motivation, it has a place to find you on a consistent basis. So it's a lot of moving parts, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into all here, but definitely check out the Sync Psych series within Sync Academy. It's a sort of a mini series within Sync Academy. That's been really powerful for a lot of members for sure. So, all right. Do I have Swedish roots? Your surname is quite common in Sweden. Yes, I do. I don't know if it's Scandinavian. I'm not exactly sure. I think I have a little bit of that going on, but for sure the SSON. I know that they do dotir if you're the daughter, and son if you're the son. I learned that when I went to Iceland for the first time in 2008. I was like, oh, so I definitely have some Scandinavian roots. So I don't exactly know. I'm not exactly sure where all that stuff came from. I should probably know, but yes, I do have a little bit of that in me. Do you think with the future of content moving more and more towards streaming that we will one day see form of music royalties generated from streaming sites like Netflix? There are royalties right now. So if you didn't know, Daniel, there are royalties being streamed by that. But you mean like directly? So that like Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube, like if they're directly licensing, are they going to generate royalties? I don't know. They might not. It could come down to sort of having the infrastructure. I know right now there's just no infrastructure to go out there and monitor it and then gather it and all that kind of stuff. So, but stuff like the blockchain and new technologies, which I barely understand, could definitely come in and start doing this stuff and creating a more transparent system of like, this is how many times your track was played and here's what you're going to generate for you, that kind of thing. So it also could turn into where streaming just turns more into an upfront fee, where you just get paid one time and that's it. It just, it's the Wild West. We're basically living through one of the most incredible, awesome, exciting, revolutionary times, for sure. And I stay optimistic about it. I'm staying open-minded about it. I'm not trying to be as rigid about like, well, the way things have always been is we get royalties and we go through the PROs. And if you're not doing that with this new technology, then we're doing something wrong. I'm trying not to fall into that kind of thinking, because that's just thinking it will get you left behind and not see opportunities in front of you. Because, before cable and all this sort of stuff going on with streaming, there was no sort of big industry for us to be earning PRO royalties. So if we weren't looking for those opportunities, we wouldn't have seen it. So I want to say, I don't want to make that mistake here and go, well, because it's not looking like how we did before, there's no future for us and we can't be profitable. Like, I don't buy that at all. I think that we can definitely find a way to make this really useful and profitable for ourselves, but it's going to probably look definitely different than what we've been doing before. That's the only thing I can guarantee you about the future, is it will not look like the past. It might resemble some things that we've done in the past, but it'll definitely be its own thing as we move forward. So awesome, man. I'm glad to have you join us. in the community for sure. Videos have been informative and inspiring. Well, awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I just want to know if there's any room for negotiating with libraries for consideration fees in place of sync fees. Some of them will actually offer that to you. They'll either say, we're going to give you consideration fees or we're going to give you sync fees. Which one do you want? So some of them will actually give you that the option on their contract when you sign with them. Not all of them. But in terms of you negotiating, unless you are some big well-known producer that has a big following, or there's like you got a little bit of a buzz about you or kind of some juice, where people are really wanting to sign you and you've got like different libraries like battling over you kind of thing. Unless you're one of them, negotiating with libraries is not going to probably work out so great, because in my experience, you can certainly always ask, definitely always ask. I don't think there's any shame in asking for things or, wanting to push back on a couple of things here and there, but do not feel that you have any sort of clout in that situation where you're like coming in and saying, well, I want things to be changed differently. And I have the music, so therefore they're going to bend to my will. Chances are, to be honest, just to keep it honest with you guys, they're probably not going to bend too much. They probably really thought about their business structure. This is how much we can afford to pay you for consideration fees, or we can't afford you to pay for consideration fees. And this is the only way we can sort of stay in business, keep our lights on. And if a particular producer or composer doesn't want to work with that way, no problem, no hard feelings, but we'll move on and we'll find somebody else that will work with those terms. So unfortunately, you don't have a lot of power and clout, especially when you're brand new to this business. You're just kind of getting your foot in the door and saying, as long as you're keeping that rider share, that's to me one of those big things I want to hold on to that rider share. And obviously, if you're getting sync fees, it'd be great to get 50% of those. I think that's a fair deal. Consideration fees are really awesome when they're there. Not every library offers them. They don't have to. So you just sort of have to kind of, pick your battles wisely. That's basically the best advice I could give. So awesome. Thinking of joining the Academy or a songwriter who writes syncable music. Very cool. Yeah. So I know we have a lot of people too that want to join Sync Academy, but they don't produce music themselves. They might be a vocalist. They might be an instrumentalist. They might be a songwriter. What I would say for all of you that don't produce yourselves, like you don't use like a DAW, you don't have a home sort of studio set up, you can make use of Sync of the Academy, but you will need to probably learn how to produce your own music. And we don't have tutorials on how to use like Logic Pro or something like that, but there's tons of free tutorials on YouTube. You can find that yourself. But you definitely are going to need to probably learn how to do it. Or the second thing is you can definitely collaborate and connect with another producer if you can find somebody that needs what you can provide, right? So you have a skill set or a talent and they're like, hey, I've always needed somebody for my music. We have a collaborations group within Sync Academy where you can kind of put your information and look around and see, hey, who might be looking for what I can offer. That's definitely going to be something that could be useful for you in the short run of just getting your sort of tracks out there and getting some sort of getting a catalog built up. But in the long run, I do think that everybody can learn how to produce music themselves these days. I know it's not easy, but it's easier now than it ever has been before to learn how to produce music on your home computer system for sure. Let's see. Compare game, movie, TV, radio, and advertising and placement income, please. Video games, no royalties. That's the one thing I'm seeing the difference between all these. So movies, TV, radio, advertising, you're all going to be getting royalties. So video games, they can be 3,000, 5,000, sometimes even more. But you're basically just getting your one-time fee. Movies will probably have the largest sync fees, the upfront fees you'll get. TV would probably be, actually, I'd say it could be the advertising would be a tie with movies. Some advertising opportunities that I've seen in my career has been 6 figures plus. So if they're international campaigns, like you can see $100,000 up front for a sync fee. But same with movies, but usually with movies, they're going to offer those to like the big artists, like the mainstream sort of well-known artists, probably not to a producer or composer who doesn't have a name for themselves. Radio, I don't have a little bit of my music in radio production. I get a couple of royalties here and there, but I've never made any upfront money from radio. And TV obviously has been my sort of big bread and butter thing where I get mostly back-end royalties from that. And those range all over the place from a couple of cents for a placement to well over, I had I think one of my biggest placements was like $1,700 for like a 9-second placement on a news channel. So it's a pretty big, wide scope of what you can really do. So hopefully that answers that. I heard MusicBed is pretty good for licensing, but apparently they did not accept unsolicited tracks. Any idea how to get your music on there? No, I don't know how to get your music on there if they're not accepting unsolicited tracks. So I'm not really sure. I'm not really familiar with MusicBed. It sounds like something like one of those sort of like a music X-ray kind of a thing, but maybe I'm wrong on that. So I'm just being thrown by that name, I think. So what do you think about online mastering services? I don't use them, never paid a penny to any of them. I master my own music. I recommend all you guys learn how to master your own music. It's not that hard. It can take less than an hour if you have the right plugins and you have the sort of a structure and you have a philosophy for what you're really doing. We teach that in Sync Academy. So problem with online mastering services is that you send it to them, they master it, you send it to the library, and the library goes, you know what, there's a little bit too much high end on here. Can you take that off? So now you got to go pay again. And then can you control what that online mastering service does? Can you alter, like if you're going to go through that process of having to alter things and having more control, you might as well just do it yourself. And you will have that happen in your career. I guarantee you, you're going to get some pushback once in a while from a library that wants you to change things. And if you're not the one making those changes, you're just at the mercy of whatever service you use. Hopefully they can do that. So. Do you have any experience with Music Library Report? I joined a couple of months ago and I basically don't even get any views at all so far. I know about it, but no, I don't have any experience with this. So I don't know. I think it's basically like a list of music libraries and kind of a forum where people are talking and stuff. So no, I don't really know much about it though. But I don't get any views at all. I don't know. Are you saying that like people are supposed to come and view your music or something? I don't know exactly that part of it. So you're welcome, man. Bruce, if I'm a foreign producer, do I need to introduce myself as a foreign producer to the music library when I submit the music for the first time? I think it'd be a nice thing to do. It's not like you have to, it's like a requirement, but people want to know who they're working with. So you can let them know, hey, I'm a UK producer, or I'm a Germany producer, or wherever you're from, let them know. I think that's just a good thing. Not so much to like a requirement, but just to let people know who you are, Producing music is hugely rewarding. It's never been so easy. I agree. All right, guys, I'm going to answer the last couple of questions and I'm going to bounce out of here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Wow, we got over 40 of you guys watching. This is really cool. If you're doing well with the library, are there any chances that filmmakers, directors approach you directly to work with them? I've actually had that happen in my career and I've asked them. I had one, it was for the American Career College commercial. It was a commercial that they needed some music composed for. And they reached out to me and I said, how did you find out about me? They said, you know what? I don't really even remember. They don't even really remember how they got my information, but they came across my website, called me up. It's possible for sure. I don't know if it's like, it doesn't happen a lot. Like I haven't had a lot of those phone calls, but for sure, once in a while, you'll get these weird, like, okay. Like, I guess my name is out there in some way that people looked me up and found me. So for sure, if somebody really likes your music enough in a library and they're like, man, we could really directly hire this person to work for our project or this and that. Absolutely. It can definitely happen. How about trailers? Trailers usually the same thing. You're going to get those upfront fees. I haven't gotten a trailer placement before, so I'm not sure in terms of the royalties. I know that if it's on TV, maybe you're going to be generating some royalties, but in terms of the film, like the theaters and stuff, I don't believe you're going to be earning royalties. So pretty much those are going to be the upfront fees, but those can be really hefty. Those can be really, really healthy as well. Definitely in the thousands or tens of thousands for sure. All right. Music supervisor. Yeah, I don't know much about that one either. I think that's kind of the same sort of thing where you're sort of paying, sending your music and, all these opportunities are there and you're competing with tens of thousands of other people. So I think I know what that is. It doesn't seem like something that I would recommend either. So Muzo City, for someone who is involved in the local music scene for the most part, will it be a good idea to try to get into sync licensing part-time for experience if I could deliver one track a week? Yeah, I mean, you definitely can. I mean, it depends. I think you should definitely take some time and think about what your goals are, right? So just to get experience, probably I wouldn't get into it just for that, just to have experience. But what I would do is really decide and do some more research. Go through the free course if you want to, syncmymusic.com. You'll get to the free course. Really think about what do you want to do long-term in your career. Do you want to make it with your band or your local music that you're doing? Is that really where your heart is? Then I would focus there. I really wouldn't do the sort of 1 foot over here, 1 foot over there. I think you really need to kind of specialize and focus on really what you want to do well in. If that's sort of just like a hobby, but you're like, hey, I think sync licensing is probably more where I'm going to make my money, then yes, you probably want to take more of a firm step into this business and do it a little bit more than just 1 track a week. You probably want to get to 2 to 3 tracks a week. That's where I recommend people get to do this full time for sure. DAW, I use Logic Pro with an iMac Mac computer. So pretty simple, actually. Almost everything I use is all plugins and built-in sounds. So, hey, what's up, Mercy? Oh, thank you for my first Father's Day. Yeah, I don't know if the last year's Father's Day was my first one because, there was a baby kind of bacon in there. But now there's definitely a baby. So for sure. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. All right, last 2 questions and then I'm out. John, if you want to invest in mastering services, buy Isotope Ozone and try its auto mastering option. Maybe try Ozone Elements first. I think it's free. Okay, it's just a recommendation there. Take it for what it is. And Nate, what's your take on uploading music to YouTube in hopes of gaining attention? In terms of getting attention in the sync licensing world, it can be done. But again, I wouldn't dabble in this. I wouldn't just throw up a track here and there. If you're going to really do social media and YouTube, you got to like market it, right? It's not just about clicking an upload button and letting your music go up there. You got to promote it. You got to push it. You got to put it on all social media. You got to talk about it on LinkedIn. You got to basically tag things on it. So it's a full-time thing. Essentially, it's like a full-time gig to try to push yourself on YouTube. Again, I wouldn't do it unless you're really ready to do it. Also, you're really ready to spend more time on it. And also double check with your library before you start uploading tracks that have been accepted by an exclusive library to, uploading those to YouTube and thinking, whatever, I'll just get more attention. I would definitely double check with them. Now, if you're in a position where you haven't been accepted by a library yet and you're thinking about uploading music to get discovered by the sync licensing world, I'd say forget it. Like, that's the lotto. Like, you're just hoping to throw something up, and it's basically somebody going like, well, maybe I'll have a hit song if I just put it on YouTube. Somebody will find it and then it'll go super, super mega viral. Possible. But that's usually not how success works. Success is sort of a constant, slowly building up, right? So if you want to get accepted and you want to get attention in the sync licensing world, kind of the theme of today's stream is go directly to a library and let them know, I've got music. I'm ready to work with you. Here's my full album, 10 tracks, 12 tracks, whatever it is you feel is really useful for them. And I've done my research and I want to partner with you. That's how you get attention in this business. You don't sort of hope that somebody will just come in and swoop down and go, wow, what an awesome, great music track. We're going to take this and give them $100,000. Like, that's dreaming. Like, yeah, that's you go buy a lotto ticket if you want to do it that way. So I'd say go directly and create these direct personal relationships. That's how you're going to do really well with this business. So, all right, guys, I'm popping out of here. We are approaching almost 50 people watching. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for your great questions, making me think as always. I really like these. They always give me food for thought. And have a great, awesome, productive week. And I hope you guys get a lot of great work done. And we'll catch you guys next week. Got some cool videos for you guys next week on the channel. So definitely stay tuned for those.